Well, let's go to another talking point of today. Caster Semenya's fight against the World Athletics Association continues in Switzerland. The Olympic champion is fighting to have the association drop its newly proposed regulations on testosterone levels in female athletes. Let's get some more on this developing story. I'm joined via Skype by Mike Finch. Now, he's editor-in-chief at Runners World South Africa. Mike, a very good morning to you. And I mean, this is such a sensitive subject to navigate because it's so easy to say the wrong thing at some point. But I just want to find out from you. We know how the South African sporting bodies are feeling about this. Rugby, SAC throwing its weight behind cricket, South Africa as well. How's the rest of the world? What's the sentiment now over this Caster Semenya issue and what the IAAF is asking athletes to do?
Well, I think that the actual ruling that is potentially going to be made in sometime next month, once this court case this week actually happens, will have far-reaching effects beyond just athletics, but right into the Olympic Committee. And we know that the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, is looking at the results of this because whatever is decided here will define how women's sport, particularly in Olympic sports, is happening going forward. So it's not just an issue around Caster Semenya. It's an issue that could really affect the world of sport for many years to come. So, for instance, if the Court of Arbitration decide that they're not going to limit the testosterone levels of athletes, that means that, you know, it's basically a free-for-all for women who are transgender or have abnormal testosterone levels to participate in the sport. And a lot of people within the Olympic Committee are concerned about that because they feel then that those athletes will have a massive advantage over normal. But when I say normal, I talk about women who have testosterone levels that are within the normal female range, that they will have less of an advantage and the sport will be dominated. So it's a big issue. If it goes against Caster, then obviously they will be able to reduce the testosterone levels down to 5 nanomoles per litre, which is the number that they've given out at the moment as their sort of ruling. And if they succeed in getting that through, then obviously people like Caster will be massively affected by that. And depending on who you talk to, she could lose her chance of winning another medal because she will not be able to run the times that she can run now.
Well, you know, there's so many discussions, so many opinions about this out there as well, Mike. I mean, there was just a tweet saying that, you know, our Olympic bodies and the IAAF is so against using any drug that might enhance a performance or using drugs in sport in general. And the irony here is that you're asking somebody to now put a drug in the body that will affect their body composition because Caster Semenya was born like this. She's not taking any supplements to keep those testosterone levels at the levels that they are in her body.
Yes, and that's obviously a very emotional issue. Besides all the science and the fight between the IAAF and the IOC and Caster Semenya's lawyers, you know, people get very upset about it because there's a human rights issue here beyond just the science. And, you know, Caster herself has really done an amazing job in keeping her cool in this situation. Yeah. She's acted with a great deal of dignity around these issues, and of course she has a lot of support here in South Africa. But it is important to not necessarily, it's very difficult to take a side on this because both sides have a legitimate argument, and that's why the Court of Arbitration is in for a very tough time because whatever they decide is going to be controversial and will affect the sport and the future of the sport for many years.
Now, I'd like your thoughts on what the CEO for the Sports Science Institute of South Africa, Mr. Zondi, had to say, saying that the issues they have, of course, is what we've just spoken about, testosterone occurring naturally in the body. It's not like she's taking supplements for that. They say it's fair to see a natural advantage is unfair. The regulation, they say, also relies on scientific arguments that are flawed. I'd like your thoughts on that and the fact that what they're asking these women to do could actually have some actually harmful medical interventions. Just in the being in the running fraternity, and you are aware, you know, over decades that we've seen athletes of different body compositions. Just your thoughts on what they say are the problems with this request.
Yeah, so Dr. Potter Zondi, a very well-respected doctor here in the Western Cape, and yeah, certainly she makes a good point. The actual research that was done by the IAAF is being proven to be quite flawed in the results that came out. So how much an advantage does an athlete like Caster Semenya have over her competitors because of her high testosterone levels? So there's a lot of debate about how much advantage that is. But principally, what constitutes an advantage? You know, just because you're born with high testosterone levels, how much testosterone are you allowed to have before you are not seen as having an unfair advantage? So, you know, certainly if I have a bigger if I have bigger leg muscles compared to my competitor, yes, I'm a better competitor. Physiologically, she was born like that. does she not have a right then to compete like that? And should her body composition be changed? And maybe they should be celebrating her genetic differences rather than trying to kind of ruin them and medicate her out of them. So yes, that is a very good point, and one of the key arguments with Caster Semenya's lawyers, that it is how she was born, and should she be allowed to stay like that.
Okay, I'm sure we'll be debating this for months to come. Like you say, there are different sides. Both sides have valid arguments, but let's see what happens. As a human rights issue, that's just as big here. Thank you very much. That's Mike